Hi ladies and gentlemen, fellow traders, welcome to another episode of Weekly Forex Outlook with Chart Engineering Pro. We really appreciate you for taking the time to watch this video. We do not take it for granted at all. If you haven't yet subscribed or you are new to this channel, kindly hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss out on any content we post here. And if you also find value with what we share here, be sure to like this video, drop your comments, share your views, and share this video to your fellow traders or anyone who would find this information useful. So without wasting much time, let's have a quick recap of last week's setups discussed in our previous video before we dive into next week's analysis. So stay tuned. This is GBPCAD. So last week we were holding this position right from here, and price hit our break even. It took us out on break even, and see how price reacted from the zone and tanked after that, after the CAD unemployment news was released. So this was a break even trade from last week on GBPCAD. We also have here Brent crude oil. So we're anticipating that price was going to sell or react from this area of interest and give us a selling opportunity. So we're holding the very first entry, which was around here, and price took us out earlier in the week, and then we got a second opportunity. So we actually took 2 L's on Brent crude oil. So we got another bearish engulfing candle here, and then we took this second entry. We took the entry, price went to profit a little bit and came all the way back to take out our trade. So this was also a loss on Brent crude oil. We also have here CADJPY. So for CADJPY, we anticipated that price was going to pull back into this area of interest to give us a buying opportunity. And when price pulled back, we didn't get any clear entry confirmation. So we actually missed out on this trade, and price has just rocketed to almost the TP we anticipated it to get to. So this was a missed trade. So let's have a quick look at the economic calendar for the coming week. So on Monday there's an Italian bank holiday for the euro. On Tuesday we're going to have the cash rate or RBA rate statement for the Australian dollar. This is also a very high impact news, which we have to take caution if you are holding any AUD pair around that time. Same day we're going to have the Bank of Japan's governor speak, and then later in the day we have the USD weekly employment change and job openings later in the day. On Wednesday we're going to have the employment cost index for US dollar, and then the Canadian dollar is also going to have the POC rate statement and the overnight rate. Same day later on Wednesday we're going to have FOMC for the US dollar. So as we usually know, and we're anticipating a possible rate cut. We're looking forward to a possible rate cut on this FOMC for this coming week. So let's be on the lookout for that on the USD pairs. On Thursday, we're going to have the AUD unemployment rate and employment change, and also that same morning on around 8:30 a.m. GMT. We're going to have the CHF S&P monetary policy assessment and an S&P policy rate. This is also a very high impact news, and it drives the market crazily on the CHF pairs. So let's be on the lookout for this particular economic news on Thursday for the CHF. We also have later in the day employment claims for the USD, and on Friday we're going to have the GDP for the British pound or GBP. So let's see what we have for the coming week. We have here DXY. So currently for DXY we have 2 scenarios we are going to look out for. So we had this leading diagonal forming, of which was developing earlier, which we anticipated that the fifth wave would have gone a little bit higher. But looking at how price has reacted, it looks like we've had a truncation of the fifth wave. So we are possibly going to have an ABC correction So the ABC is something like this is going to be a A wave, get a B wave, and then the C wave to the downside. So it's going to we are looking out for a possible correction on the US dollar index. So for the coming week, if we are going to look at the bearish side of things, we will wait for price to pull back to this area of interest. Should price pull back to this area of interest and give us some bearish confirmations, we'll be interested in taking the sells to the downside. So this 61.8% retracement will be our first target, and a 78.6% retracement will be our second target for the bearish side for DXY. Should price also pull back and go a bit higher to this zone as well, we'll still be interested in looking for selling opportunities to the downside. So these are the possible scenario, the very first possible scenario we have for DXY for the coming week. So this is the second scenario we have for DXY. So looking at the formation we had earlier, if this is a leading diagonal and this truncation is not really a truncation but happens to be a flat correction, then we might also be looking out for the fit wave now. We might also be looking out for the fit wave to start developing from here. This is the second possible scenario we have for the DXY. So with this particular move to the bullish side, if we get a trend line break from here and we get a 4-hour structure shift, even though the 4 hours already shifted around this zone, we'll rather wait for this 4-hour structure to shift or break, or we have a 4-hour candle break above this structure point and give us a pullback, and then price continues to the upside. And this particular move is very relatable to USDCHF. So when we get there, you will understand. So this is the second possible scenario we have for DXY for the coming week. This is the Swiss franc currency index. And so for the Swiss franc currency index, on a weekly perspective and daily perspective, we are bearish on that. Price is very bearish, and then in the 4 hour, we're looking out for a structure shift. So should price shift structure or break this structure and count for a pullback or a possible lower high formation, we might be looking out for selling opportunities to the downside. So which means the XXX CHF pairs will be buying, and then the CHF XXX pairs will be selling. So let's look out for that for the coming week. So we are very bearish, or we are looking for weakness in the Swiss franc for the coming week. So this is EURUSD. So for EURUSD, currently price has now shifted bullish weekly on the weekly perspective and on the daily perspective. So going forward or going into next week, we'll be looking forward to a possible pullback into this very first zone and look for buying opportunities to this very first TP or the second TP we have above. Should price pull back a little bit deeper to the second zone below, we will still be interested in taking the buys from this zone as well and look forward to buying up taking the buys to the upside or to these various targets we have at the top. So we are very bullish on EURUSD for the coming week. This will only be invalidated if price, if we get a daily candle close below the structure point, then we might be considering going bearish from there. But until then, we are now very bullish for EURUSD for the coming week. We have here GBPUSD. So for GBPUSD, we are now getting clarity on what is actually developing. So when you look at it from an Elliott wave perspective, we are currently seeing a possible triangle correction which is developed, even though it doesn't look like a triangle, but this is called a triangle correction, a 3333 triangle correction. So these are the various waves we've identified. So this is a wave 1, wave 2, wave 3 for the wave A. This is a wave 1, wave 2, wave 3 for the wave B. This is wave 1, wave 2, wave 3 for the wave C. So we are now looking forward to a possible wave D formation, which is also going to give us something like a 3-wave formation like this to the D leg of the correction. So if we get this, should this play out, we'll also be looking forward to a possible sell opportunity if price reaches this resistance. We're looking forward to a possible sell formation to give us a completion of the triangle correction. So we are currently looking at the C to D leg of the triangle correction, which is actually developing on GBPUSD. So for the coming week, we are going to be very bullish for GBPUSD. So we'll wait for price to pull back to this area of interest, look for buying opportunities and take it to the upside. So this will be our very first TP, and our second TP will be this resistance we have above here. So we are very bullish on GBPUSD. This will only shift bearish if we have a daily candle break this zone or break this structural point as well, and price continues to tank to the bottom. Until then, we are very bullish for GBPUSD for the coming week. We have here USDCHF. So looking at the possible weakness we're going to see on the CHF for the coming week, what we're going to look out for here is this looks like an impulse and a correction and a possible impulse yet to come. So this happens to be the impulse. This happens to be the impulse. This happens to be the correction, which is more like a flag, and we're looking for the possible continuation of this impulse. So for the coming week, looking at what is actually developing on CHF, we'll wait for this 4-hour structural shift. We'll wait for a 4-hour candle to break above the structure point. So if a 4-hour candle breaks above the structure point, we'll wait for a possible pullback into this area of interest and look for buying opportunities to the upside. And so we'll be looking at this bullish side of things for USDCHF, considering the weakness, the possible weakness we are likely to see on the CHF on the CHF Index for the coming week. So we are going to look at this for CHF for the coming week. Should price break below the second zone we have here, then we are going to shift bearish to complete that old deep grab pattern we were anticipating a long time ago. So if price is able to break this zone, this second zone, and we get a retest of this zone, we'll be looking forward to sell to this particular target for USDCHF. This is AUDUSD. So AUDUSD is currently forming a potential cipher or shark pattern. So going into next week, we'll be looking forward to a possible pullback to this area of interest. If we are fortunate to get a pullback into this area of interest, we'll be looking forward to buying opportunities to the upside to this very region or area or the potential reversal zone for the shark pattern for AUDUSD. So we are very bullish on AUDUSD for the coming week. We have here NZDUSD, and NZDUSD is also currently bullish on a weekly perspective, and a daily perspective it is bullish. So for the coming week, we'll be looking forward to a possible pullback into this area of interest. Should we get buying confirmations or buying opportunities from here, we will take this buy to the upside, targeting this target as our first TP, and our second TP will be the zone above here. Should price pull back a bit deeper to the second zone below, we'll still be interested in looking for the buying opportunities to the upside. So we are very bullish on NZDUSD for the coming week as well. This can only shift bearish if price finds its way to break this daily structure here, which is a long way to go. If price is able to come all the way to break this, that's when we'll consider this bearish. Until then, we are very bullish on NZDUSD for the coming week. We have here USDCAD, and USDCAD is also shifted bearish on the weekly perspective and on the daily perspective as well. So we are going to look forward to selling opportunities on the USDCAD for the coming week. So we'll be looking at a possible pullback to this very first area of interest here, and if we get selling confirmations, reversal patterns that confirms that we are ready to sell, we'll take this sell to the downside, having this as our first target and this as our second target for USDCAD. Should price pull back a bit higher to this second zone above, we'll still be interested in taking sales from that zone as well to the downside, targeting these two targets, the same targets as we had from the previous scenario. And this can only shift bullish if price now finds its way to break these highs. And if you look at it, it looks like a possible double top that has formed, and it is crashing deeply. And so we're going to look forward to sales rather than buys for the coming week for USDCAD. We have here EURCAD. We have been anticipating this move for a very long time, and finally price has committed itself. So for the coming week, we're looking forward to this possible head and shoulder formation, and that is what is actually happening now. So this is the left shoulder, this is the head, this is the right shoulder, and now we are making our way to complete the head and shoulder pattern. So for the coming week, we'll be looking forward to a possible pullback to retest the neckline of the head and shoulder formation. So we are looking forward to a pullback to retest this neckline of the head and shoulder formation, and we'll target these zones we have below. So we are very bearish on EURCAD for the coming week. Should price pull back a bit higher to the zone above, we'll still be interested in taking the sales from there. This can only be invalidated if price breaks above this zone, these two zones, and clears these highs and then changes direction. Until then, we are going to be very bearish on EURCAD for the coming week. So let's be on the lookout for that. We also have here GBPCAD. So GBPCAD is now showing us its true colors. So we currently have, so on the weekly perspective, we are bearish. On the daily perspective, we have now also shifted bearish. So for the coming week, we'll be looking forward to a possible pullback to this very first area of interest, or the second area of interest above. So should we get a pullback here and get selling confirmations, we'll be interested in taking the sales from here to the downside. Or should price pull back a bit higher into the second zone above, which is going to give us a possible right shoulder. So this is going to be the left shoulder, this is going to be the head. So we are waiting for a possible right shoulder formation, then we take the sales to the downside. So this will be our setup for GBPCAD for the coming week. This can only shift bullish if price is able to make its way back, all the way back, to break these highs and change direction to the upside. Until then, we are going to be very bearish for GBPCAD for the coming week. We also have here NZDCAD, and NZDCAD has given us a nice reaction. I think we had this setup from last week, so it has finally given us a nice reaction, or a nice daily structural shift from our area of interest. So going into next week, we'll be looking forward to a possible pullback. We're looking forward to a possible pullback into this area of interest once again to give us a possible right shoulder or a lower high formation. We'll look for selling confirmations, or should price pull back to give us a double top formation as well, we'll still be interested in taking the sales the downside to these two targets we have right here. So we are also very bearish on NZDCAD. This can only be invalidated if price breaks above. We get a daily candle breaking above this zone and it counts for retest and goes or continues to the upside. Until then, we are very bearish on NZDCAD for the coming week. This is CADJPY, and we are also very extremely bullish on CADJPY now. On a weekly and a daily perspective, we are very bullish on CADJPY. So for the coming week, we'll be looking forward to a possible pullback into this area of interest we have right here. Should we get a pullback into this first area of interest and we get buying confirmations, we'll take the buys to the upside, having this as our first TP, and our second TP will be above right here. Should price also pull back a bit deeper to the second zone below and give us buying confirmations, we'll still be interested in taking the buys to the upside for CADJPY. So we have here GBP. So GBP has given us a very clean, a super clean head and shoulder formation, and this is the left shoulder, this is the head, this is our right shoulder. We are looking forward to the completion of the head and shoulder pattern. So for the coming week, we are going to look forward to a possible pullback or retest of the neckline of the head and shoulder formations. We are going to look forward to a possible pullback into this zone and look for selling confirmations and sell to the downside. Or should price pull back a bit higher to the second zone above, we'll still be interested in looking for the selling opportunities to the downside. So we are very bearish on Euro GBP for the coming week. This can only shift bullish if price we get a daily candle breaking above the structural high, and then price comes back for a retest and we continue to the upside. Until then, we are very bearish on Euro GBP for the coming week. We have here GBPAUD, which is also extremely bearish now. On a weekly perspective and a daily perspective is very bearish. And then as price pulled back to this area of interest, we have a nice head and shoulder formation that has reacted from this area of interest. So for the coming week, we are going to look forward to a possible pullback to this first area of interest, which is the neckline of the head and shoulder formation. So this is the, let me drop to the 4-hour time frame. So this is the head and shoulder formation we have right here. So this is the left shoulder, this is the head, this is the right shoulder. So we are looking forward to a continuation to this pattern, or a continuation for this pattern. So going into next week, we are going to look forward to a possible pullback into this first area of interest. We get selling confirmations from here, we'll be very glad to take the sell to the downside, having this as our first TP and our second TP below. Should price pull back a bit higher to the second zone above, we'll still be interested in taking the sell to the downside. So we are very bearish on GBPAUD for the coming week. All these can be invalidated if price is able to find its way all the way above here and clear this structural high and continue to the upside. Until then, we are extremely bearish on GBPAUD for the coming. We also have here EURAUD. So for EURAUD, on the daily and in the 4-hour perspective, we are very bearish now. So going into next week, we'll be looking forward to a possible pullback to this very first zone or first area of interest we have here. And should we get selling confirmations, we'll be very glad to take these sales from here to this zone we have below. Should price pull back a little bit higher to this second zone above, we'll still be interested in taking the sales to the downside. This can only be invalidated, or this sell bias can only be invalidated if we get a daily candle break above the structural high and price shifts direction. Until then, we are very bearish also on EURAUD for the coming week. We also have here AUDCHF, and AUDCHF is currently forming a harmonic pattern, which I would like to identify right now. So this is the potential pattern development. So this is our X, this would be our A, this is our B leg, this is our C leg. We are heading towards our D leg. So for the coming week, and also considering the weakness we are likely to see on the CHF Index, we will look forward to a possible pullback back into this first area of interest, get buying confirmations, and we take the buys to the upside. Should price pull back also a bit deeper to the second zone we have below, we'll still be interested in taking the buys to the upside. This can only be invalidated if this zone breaks below and then price comes for a retest, and then we know that we have shifted bearish. Until then, we are very bullish on AUDCHF for the coming week. We also have here NZDCHF, and for NZDCHF, we are also very bullish right now on NZDCHF. So for the coming week, we will be looking forward to a possible pullback to this very first area of interest. Look for buying confirmations, and we take it to the zone we have above here. Should price also pull back a bit deeper to the second zone below, which might give us a possible right shoulder formation, then we'll also be glad to take the buys to the upside. But then if these zones get violated, and we get a daily candle closure below this structural point, then we will rather be looking for the downside of things. Until then, we are extremely bullish for NZDCHF for the coming week. We also have here CHFJPY, and for CHFJPY, also considering the weakness we are likely to see on the CHF pair or CHF index, we are going to look forward to a possible pullback to this very first area of interest we have here. So this very first area of interest, should we get a selling confirmation, so we'll be glad to take the sell to the downside, or should we get a pullback a bit higher to the second zone we have above, we will still be interested in taking the sell to the downside for CHFJPY, and this can only shift bullish if we get a daily candle closing above the structural points we have here, and we make our way to the upside. Until then, we are currently bearish. We're looking for selling opportunities to this area of interest where we might likely have some bullish reactions coming from. So should price come here and give us some nice reversal patterns within this zone, we'll be glad to take the buys also from here and back to the upside. So this is the long-term view for CHFJPY. We have here the S&P 500. So we had it set up from last week. We were anticipating that price was going to pull back into this very area of interest and give us confirmation to the upside. Price never made its way back into our area of interest. So we are going to look at the same setup. Should price pull back to this area of interest and give us confirmations to the upside, we'll be very glad to take this buy to the upside. We are very bullish for the S&P 500 for now. This can only shift bearish if price makes its way all the way below here and tanks to the bottom. Until then, we are extremely bullish for S&P 500, so we'll be looking out for buying opportunities for S&P 500 for the coming week. We also have here US 30, and US 30 is also now bullish on daily perspective and a weekly perspective. It's bullish. So going into next week, we'll be looking forward to a possible pullback into this area of interest, and then we'll look for buying confirmations to the upside. So this very first TP or the second TP we have about here, or the second TP we have here. Okay, so one tricky thing is, should we get a daily candle closure below this structure point, and should price come back for a lower high or possible right shoulder formation, this trade might likely move to the bottom instead, or would likely sell, and we'll be targeting this very first structure point as our first target, and this zone we have below as our second target for US 30. So I think the last one for the week. We also have here the France 40, FRA 40. We're also looking at the same setup from last week, where we were anticipating that price was going to react or pull back into any of these two areas of interest and give us some reaction to the upside. So we'll be looking out for a possible harmonic pattern formation. So going into next week, if we get price pulling back into this area of interest or a bit deeper into the second zone we have below, we'll still be interested in taking the buys to the upside for FRA 40. Thank you so much for sticking through to the end of the video. I really appreciate you for your time, and I would like to encourage all of us to apply proper risk management to our trades. Let's trade safe and sound, and I wish all of us a profitable and a fruitful week ahead of us. Thank you so much and have a blessed week. Bye bye.